Sometimes when we make an appeal about something disputed, we offer reasons, and if the reasons are forceful or compelling, we might say that we have proved our point. But there are other times when we draw on something else to make our point. We're drawing on something deeper and more basic. Philosophers refer to these as intuitions, and they mean something in particular there. They mean something, not a hunch or a particular insight you gain from a lot of experience, but something that's very foundational, that is built in. Something you know, but you don't know how you know it, okay? Now, I know there are people that have taken exception with an appeal to intuition like that. I do it frequently. That is, I make the appeal frequently when it comes to morality and some other things, but they're uncomfortable. They say, "Oh no, you can prove math." Now, I think math is something known by intuition. That is, when you understand what the symbols represent, you can see. Notice the way I phrase that. You can see that the conclusion follows from what comes before it. 2 plus 2 equal 4. I actually had somebody tell me, though, he said, "No, I can prove to you, prove the math works scientifically, as it were." And he brought out 2 apples, and then he got 2 more apples, and he placed them all together, and you could see that there were 4 apples. And he took this as an experiment to prove that 2 plus 2 were 4, when I was claiming you don't need any proof. In fact, no proof is even available for that kind of thing. You just see it. And what I had to point out to him is that he hadn't proven anything, that he had simply put the equation 2 plus 2 equal 4 in a different form. He had, instead of using numerals, he had used objects to exemplify the equation, but he hadn't proved anything. Certainly not scientifically, because if this was a genuine scientific test, experiment, then I would have to say to him, "Well, you only did the experiment once. Go ahead and do it a couple more dozen times and have some other people do it to see if you come to the same conclusion before you can say you've got experimental evidence that's repeatable that proves your point." Now, anybody who heard that particular challenge would say, "You don't need to keep doing this over and over. Isn't it obvious that you're going to get the same results over and over?" And my answer is yes, it is obvious, which is exactly my point. It's not a scientific test. It's just an exemplification of the math that is self-evidently true if you understand the tokens involved. You know what a 2 is? You know what a 4 is? You know what plus and equal means? Fine. You put those together, you see that, you realize, you're simply based on your reflection at that point, that the solution is accurate as a equation. 2 plus 2 equal 4. It's not something you've learned. You might have learned the symbols, but in a certain sense, the evidential aspect of it is something that's built in. It's reflective, and you just see it. You can't prove math, all right? You can use math to prove other things. You can use simple math to prove complicated math, but none of it would work unless you had a foundational insight that allows you to see how these things work together accurately. And that is something that science can't account for. It depends upon it. It's outside of the realm of science. It is used by science to make science work. And these are the kinds of things that convince me that there's a whole separate reality outside of the physical world that we encounter all the time and we use all the time. And there are ways of knowing apart from that which we can know by our 5 senses. And we use them all the time as well. And how do you explain these things? What worldview makes the best sense of things like math? Certainly not materialism. Our worldview, though, a worldview that entails both physical things and immaterial things that can be grounded and an intelligent, rational, reasonable God. That can make sense of things like math.